Guys, the time by H&L Rapid True Value is
Nationwide time, 5 o'clock.
Interex Distributors presents the ultimate tile clearance sale. Transform your space for less. Dunrobin Plaza, 30 Dunrobin Avenue. The temperature by Interex Distributors is
29 degrees Celsius in Kingston and Montego Bay.
From the Nationwide News Network, comprehensive, incisive, tough. This is Nationwide at 5.
Good afternoon, I'm Robianne Williams.
And I'm Mahiri Stewart.
In Nationwide News at this hour, CARICOM to present Agriculture Minister with a coordinated plan to mitigate potential fallout from the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran.
CARICOM has formulated a draft response matrix to seek to mitigate the projected fallout and challenges to food security. This will be presented to the Ministers of Agriculture.
Works Minister pushes back against NARA criticism by Master Builders Association.
JCF warns of major traffic disruptions across the corporate area for Carnival weekend.
Leader of Opposition Business says Ethics Committee decision to summon Dennis Gordon raises questions of consistency and procedural fairness.
Normalcy returns to Spanish Town Hospital in St. Catherine following bomb threat.
In news from the rest of the world, Trinidad and Tobago recognizes Delcy Rodriguez as acting Venezuelan president.
Iran delegation arrives in Pakistan for U.S. talks as Lebanon and Israel to discuss ceasefire.
In sports, St. Elizabeth Technical retains All-Ireland Schoolboy cricket title.
And later in our broadcast, in our cover story at 5:35, CARICOM is taking steps to formulate a coordinated response to cushion against potential fallout from the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran.
The response matrix is intended to act as a comprehensive policy framework that links external shocks to policy responses, thus ensuring a holistic approach.
You'll hear more from a high-level panel discussion held by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations on Friday.
In the nation's business at 6:25, the Jamaica Social Investment Fund has reported its highest ever project disbursement, $4.1 billion for the 2024-2025 fiscal year. Its managing director, Omar Sweeney, will join us.
Taking you around the world at 6:45, Cuba's President Miguel Diaz-Canel says he will not resign under U.S. pressure. You'll hear more. And at 7, it's the comments section with Shaloy Smikle and Mahiri Stewart this evening. They're asking NTM or Mayor's Parlor. Give us your comments by logging on to our Facebook page, Nationwide News Network, and by tweeting us at Nationwide Radio, and message us on WhatsApp at 876-285-5693. You can also leave your comments on Instagram at Nationwide 90FM. All these and more as we take you home on air on your mobile, Nationwide 90FM, RevoNews.ai, and on the Revo News app. It's available on Google Play and the App Store. This afternoon, it's Friday, April 10, 2026.
If it's news, it's got to be Nationwide 90 FM.
Now to the details. The leadership of the Caribbean Community, CARICOM, is moving to formulate a coordinated response to mitigate potential fallout from the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran on the region's energy and food security. Acting Assistant Secretary General of CARICOM, Wendell Samuel, discussed the issue during a high-level panel discussion held by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations on Friday. Siobhan Campbell tells us more.
A fragile ceasefire is in place in the Middle East as the U.S., Israel, and Iran gear up for potential peace talks in the conflict that began in February. But with no certainty the conflict will come to an end anytime soon, Acting Assistant Secretary General of CARICOM, Wendell Samuel, says the region's economies remain highly exposed in spite of geographic and political distance.
Our economies remain highly exposed to the global shocks transmitted through energy markets, food systems, and international supply chains. CARICOM's high import dependence for food, fuel, fertilizers, and shipping services mean that the external geopolitical tensions quickly morph into domestic economic challenges. Inflation, food affordability, fiscal stability are not abstract risks for us. They are immediate public policy concerns.
The weeks-long hostilities have already caused a near standstill in traffic passing through the vital energy corridor, the Strait of Hormuz. As of today, Friday, average global oil prices remain elevated between $95 and $99 per barrel. That's well above the $70 recorded before the conflict. Samuel says small import-dependent states like those of CARICOM will be more vulnerable to the impacts of the crisis.
Currently, the situation reflects enduring structural vulnerabilities rather than isolated shocks. Historically, global conflicts disproportionately affect small import-dependent states, and this one is no different. Energy volatility, fertilizer shortages, and shipping disruptions interact to produce compounded economic and social pressures. Accordingly, a fragmented response will be insufficient. This situation calls for a coordinated strategy, and this is absolutely essential.
The Assistant Secretary General says CARICOM will not stand idly by, but has begun to take steps to shield the regional bloc.
The CARICOM region has formulated a draft response matrix to seek to mitigate the projected fallout and challenges to food security. This will be presented to the Ministers of Agriculture for their consideration, adoption, and implementation. The response matrix is intended to act as a comprehensive policy framework that, 1, links external shocks to policy responses, thus ensuring a holistic approach. It identifies a sequence and targeting responses, proposes short-term rapid measures to stabilize conditions while the long-term reforms strengthen resilience and reduce vulnerability. And it also calls for regional, collective, and collaborative action.
Siobhan Campbell for Nationwide News.
Works Minister Robert Morgan has largely dismissed the Incorporated Master Builders Association of Jamaica's criticisms of the National Reconstruction and Resilience Authority, NARA. Minister Morgan and IMAJ President Richard Mullings were guests on Nationwide this morning on Friday. Mahiri Stewart has that story.
The NARA bill was tabled in the lower house last month. The IMAJ says the proposed legislation falls short of the government's promise to build back better after Hurricane Melissa. It says the bill lacks transparency, coordination, accountability, and resilience. In response, Minister Morgan says the Jamaica Reconstruction and Resilience Oversight Committee, JAMROC, will ensure proper oversight on projects.
A lot of the concerns that the IMAJ has are responded to in a very logical way. For example, oversight. We have adopted the concept of the previous oversight bodies that dealt with the economy. And now we have JAMROC. Previously we used to have the EPOC, which was a consensus-based oversight body that analyzed what we were doing to maintain our economic credibility. And that's the same thing that JAMROC is going to do. And I told the president that the master builders can request to be a member of JAMROC.
Minister Morgan disagreed with the claims that the proposed legislation has accountability gaps. He says the government has been open about NARA and has welcomed suggestions on the bill.
The argument that it lacks transparency falls flat because we also have a parliamentary oversight responsibility. The bill is being tabled in public. It is not being surreptitiously imposed on the country. And the fact that I, as a minister and the head of the entity, along with yourself as journalists, are discussing it demonstrates the willingness of the government to hear what the concerns are and also to deal with it.
The minister referenced his recent trip to Peru for talks with its National Infrastructure Authority. He says the intervention is evidence that Jamaica has a regionally respected accountability framework in place.
Jamaica's accountability framework is more robust and more transparent as it is now than Peruvian transparency framework. Peru does not have an integrity commission. Peru does not have an auditor general like we do in Jamaica. So we already have a strong and robust accountability framework. And I think it would be an indictment on the government to seek to add additional layers to that, in a sense saying that our accountability framework has failed when everybody globally is saying that we are one of the best.
Mahiri Stewart for Nationwide News.
Meanwhile, the IMAJ's president says he's optimistic the group and the ministry can iron out any other creases with the proposed legislation.
What gives me comfort is that the ministers expressed willingness or openness to dialogue, which he does traditionally, and to take in consideration into account into how this bill and the regulations will be formed. And I'm looking forward to providing more input on behalf of the master builders so that we can see it constructed in a way that will get wide support, public trust, bipartisan support, and so on.
Richard Mullings, president of the IMAJ.
The Jamaica Constabulary Force is advising the public to prepare for major traffic disruptions related to carnival activities in the corporate area this weekend. Festivities will run from Saturday, April 11 to Sunday, April 12, with Jouvert on Saturday and several road marches scheduled for Sunday. Robian Williams reports.
The JCF says traffic changes will take effect from 8 o'clock Sunday morning, with multiple road closures and diversions expected throughout the day to facilitate the safe movement of revelers. Among the major corridors to be impacted are Arthur Wint Drive, Mountain View Avenue, Hope Road, Trafalgar Road, Lady Musgrave Road, and Knutsford Boulevard. Key intersections along Waterloo Road, Halfway Tree Road, and Oxford Road will also see traffic diversions at various points. Senior Communications Strategist of the JCF, Senior Superintendent Dennis Brooks, says the changes will vary before, during, and after each parade.
Motorists are therefore urged to avoid designated parade routes and utilize alternate routes where possible. There will be parking restrictions. No vehicles will be allowed to park along the parade routes. Vehicles parked and left unattended will be towed at the owner's expense. In terms of periphery monitoring, alternate routes on the periphery of the parade will be closely monitored by the police, so no obstructions, whether caused by vehicles or otherwise, will be tolerated.
SSP Brooks outlined a number of actions that will be prohibited during the events.
The distribution of free items along the parade route is strictly prohibited. Such activities can lead to dangerous crowd surges or stampedes, which may result in serious injury or even death, so that is not allowed. The establishment of sound systems along the parade routes is prohibited, as these may disrupt the orderly flow of the official event. The JCF maintains a zero-tolerance policy regarding unauthorized vehicles within the parade space. Motorcycles, ATVs, and pedal cyclists will not be allowed to join the parade.
SSP Brooks says the measures are aimed at ensuring a safe and enjoyable experience. He's urging the public to comply with the instructions of lawmen on the ground. Robian Williams for Nationwide News.
Meanwhile, Mayor of Kingston and St. Andrew, Andrew Swaby, says arrangements are already in place with the National Solid Waste Management Authority, NSWMA, to manage the post-carnival cleanup across the corporate area.
We see cleanup as a part of the event and not as an afterthought. And part of the arrangement would have been each band or watch party would have submitted something to the National Solid Waste for their recommendation for approval to us. Our Chief City Engineer Department will be doing all the inspections on the temporary structures. Our KSAMC team will be on the ground. I know we'll be there start on Saturday morning after the Juve party to make sure that its cleanup is being done. We see Carnival as a major economic driver in Kingston. It supports the vendors, the small businesses, the service providers right across the city. It even strengthens our tourism product.
Andrew Swaby, Mayor of Kingston, and Chairman of Jamaica Carnival, Kamal Banki, says this year's staging of Carnival is expected to deliver significant benefits to Kingston and the wider national economy.
I think that everybody is on the same page and we all want to see a very good and successful carnival this year. A lot of care has been taken to ensure that any negative or potential negative effects on the city of Kingston are reduced to a bare minimum, and Kingston should benefit from the economic aspect of carnival in Jamaica in a significant way. And of course, nationally, we know that this is something that is one of the biggest, if not the biggest thing that we have done in our annual calendar to make sure that Jamaica's tourism economy and our entertainment festival economy are at the top of the line. Coming out of the hurricane that we recently endured, this is something that economically Jamaica needs, and I'm happy that people are here in droves from all around the world come and support us on our initiative for Carnival.
Kamal Banki, chairman of Jamaica Carnival. Both men were speaking during a meeting with Carnival promoters at the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation on Thursday.
You're listening to Nationwide News at 5. More news after these.
You're listening to Nationwide 90 FM. The time is
5:15.
Remember the first time, the first glance, the first touch. This Easter weekend, rediscover that feeling at Couples Resorts. Escape to a couples-only all-inclusive paradise with gourmet dine-in, premium cocktails, and unforgettable ocean views, all included. Jamaican residents can celebrate your Easter escape with exclusive rates from $405 USD per night, valid through April 30th. Visit couples.com/residents. Couples Resorts, like the first time, every time.
Continuing the news, Leader of Opposition Business in the House of Representatives, Philip Paulwell, says he's concerned about a reported decision by the Ethics Committee to summon Member of Parliament Dennis Gordon. Paulwell finds the decision curious, considering the matter has already been ventilated and approved by the House of Representatives.
Let me be clear. The Ethics Committee had already examined the exemption request, reported its findings to the House, and the House subsequently approved the motion. Once that process has been completed, the committee's role in that matter is effectively concluded. Any attempt to revisit it must be grounded in a clearly defined new breach and a proper referral from the House.
The Ethics Committee on Wednesday voted to summon Gordon in relation to information coming to light surrounding the UHWI Jack Dent scandal. Its government members are concerned that information he may have provided to the committee in seeking an exemption to pursue government contracts is inaccurate based on what is now in the public domain. It should be noted no opposition member of the committee attended Wednesday's sitting. But Paulwell is cautioning that the move raises serious concerns about consistency and procedural fairness, particularly amid broader criticisms about the uneven functioning of parliamentary committees. He also challenged the apparent decision to address the matter in a public forum, stressing that the Ethics Committee traditionally operates in camera.
I must criticize the decision to handle this matter in a public forum. The Ethics Committee traditionally operates with a degree of confidentiality. That convention exists for good reason. We cannot have a system where procedures are selectively applied or where settled matters are reopened without a clear basis. That undermines both the authority of the House and the public confidence in its oversight mechanisms. The opposition is therefore calling for clarity on the scope of the committee's actions and for strict adherence to established parliamentary rules. The integrity of our democratic processes depends on it.
That's Philip Paulwell, Leader of Opposition Business in the House of Representatives.
Mayor of Black River, Richard Solomon, is appealing to residents of St. Elizabeth to exercise caution on the roads following widespread flooding in several areas across the parish. The mayor says intermittent rainfall over the past several weeks has led to rising water levels in a number of communities, particularly low-lying and flood-prone areas.
As you can appreciate, the soil is sort of super saturated now. So sections of the parish are being flooded at this point in time. You know, the roads we are covered, they are badly damaged at this time. The sort of rain we are experiencing at this point in time is unprecedented. It is really affecting areas that would normally flood, and it is really deteriorating the roads that would have been already been hammered by Melissa. Sections that are flooding as we speak, we have areas Horton, Holland Bamboo, Slipe is flooding. Santa Cruz, as you can appreciate. If the rain continues to fall, one can appreciate that the water is continuing to rise in the New River because all of the water will tend to go in that direction.
Mayor Solomon is urging motorists and pedestrians alike to remain vigilant, avoid flooded roads, and adhere to safety advisories.
The situation is good. Areas like Mountainside, Burn Savannah, some section of the road will become impossible if it continues like this. I am appealing to the citizens to traverse these corridors with great caution. I would advise them not to take any chance. I mean, I am traveling here and I had to come to a very high water and vehicles had to turn back. and the section that I'm traversing now. So I'm really encouraging persons to exercise great caution.
Richard Solomon, Mayor of Black River.
Operations at Spanish Town Hospital in St. Catherine have returned to normal following a bomb threat on Thursday. Patients and staff, except those in emergency areas, were evacuated from the facility. The Jamaica Fire Brigade's divisional head for St. Catherine, Superintendent Dennis Lyon, gave our news center the update on Friday.
Following the information that we received that a bomb was planted on the compound of the Spanish Town Hospital, the team from the Jamaica Constabulary Force K9 Division, they carried out a primary search of the entire compound, and while the brigade stand by, after they report to us that they have checked everything, the brigade now carried out a secondary search because our role there was a search and rescue, and we checked all the areas to include the car park, and having satisfied that they have not seen anything that would warrant any suspicion, I gave the instructions for operation to resume at the facility.
Superintendent Dennis Lyon, the Jamaica Fire Brigade's divisional head for St. Catherine.
World in a Minute is brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose assembly and supply, equipping Jamaica for success.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology and integrity.
The World in a Minute.
Trinidad and Tobago has formally recognized Delcy Rodriguez as the acting president of Venezuela. It comes as Port of Spain prepares to send a delegation to Caracas for discussions on energy cooperation. Foreign Affairs Minister Sean Sobers confirmed the plans at a post-cabinet meeting on Thursday. Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar had announced the plans for the diplomatic mission, but her role in the delegation has not been confirmed.
Iranian negotiators have arrived in Pakistan ahead of peace talks with the U.S. set to take place this weekend. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance is on his way to Islamabad and says he's looking forward to the negotiations. Earlier on Friday, Iran's parliament speaker says a ceasefire in Lebanon must happen before negotiations begin. Meanwhile, Lebanese officials say negotiators will meet with an Israeli delegation in Washington on Tuesday to discuss a ceasefire and the potential for wider talks.
World in a Minute was brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose assembly and supply, equipping Jamaica for success.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology and integrity.
Recapping the top stories making nationwide news at this hour, CARICOM to present agriculture ministers in the region with a food security plan to mitigate potential fallout from the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran.
Works Minister pushes back against NARA criticism by Master Builders Association.
JCF warns of major traffic disruptions across the corporate area for Carnival weekend.
Leader of Opposition Business says Ethics Committee decision to summon Dennis Gordon raises questions of consistency and procedural fairness.
I'm Robianne Williams.
And I'm Mahiri Stewart.
You can find the news on our website at revonews.ai and on the Revo News app. It's available on Google Play and the App Store. News next, the headlines at 6.
Every day, Jamaicans have something to say. In the group chats, on social media, in the streets, there's a place where it all comes together. The comment section. This is not a lecture. This is not a call-in show. This is the hottest topics of the day, filtered through real opinions, real WhatsApp messages, real voice notes, real reactions. You agree, disagree, sound off, text it, voice note it, debate it. Comments section. Monday to Friday from 7 to 7:30 p.m. only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media.
Not a mercy. This one is very classic, dedicated to all schoolers who are taking beats.
If you've ever struggled to pass an exam, then you'll know that students today are under great pressure to get good grades and secure qualification needed to move on to higher education. The problem is that too many students are struggling alone and could really benefit from connecting with hardworking teachers and other bright students in other parts of the country and the region. Join me, Dennis Brooks, this and every Friday evening from 8 to 9, with a repeat on Saturday morning from 8 to 9. For the A-Team, a study group on radio, my team of teachers, students, and experts will break down the syllabus, giving you information, tips, and past paper questions that will help you get top grades in your upcoming exams. Follow us on Facebook Live and on Twitter and be a part of the community. It's the A-Team, Fridays at 8 p.m. with a repeat at 8 o'clock on Saturday morning. It's your free extra class on radio and social media. And it's right here on Nationwide 90 FM, the revolution in media.
Sports at 5 is brought to you by Total Tools. Total Tools, every tool, every trade.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Sports here on Nationwide 90 FM. I'm Wayne Walker. We start with news on cricket. St. Elizabeth Technical High School, they remain kings of local schoolboy cricket. This after their Issa Sporting Cup game on Friday was ended prematurely due to rain, and it was against St. Jago High School at Melbourne Oval. Now, when play was called off late on the final day, St. Elizabeth Technical were 196 for 1, and they were batting a second time. They were an overall lead of 484. Jamari Bryce was not out and on 81, and with him is captain Tyree Bryan, 79. They stood in an unbroken second wicket stand of 139. Earlier, St. Jago, who resumed on 117 for 2, were eventually dismissed for 184, and they were, of course, responding to 487 all out made by the Grace Headley Cup champions. Raheem Willie bagged 4 for 58, and Vitel Laws, the young West Indies star, he bagged 4 for 179. Danza Hyatt Jr. led the batting for St. Jago with 65. Stets retained the title by virtue of taking first innings points. Remember, I said they made 487 all out, to which St. Jago responded and were bowled out for 194. And the coach of the winning St. Elizabeth Technical High School team, Carl Wright, gave this reaction to his team's performance.
It was a team effort, because I think everybody pick up wickets. So as I said, we have a team meeting, and a flat wicket like this, we wanted to restrict the opponent, and by restricting the opponent, we have to get the ball in the right areas and hold on onto our chances when we get them, and we did that, and it paid off.
That's Carl Wright, coach of the winning St. Elizabeth Technical High School team. Still with cricket, Wayne Lewis, who is the honorary secretary of the West Indies Players Association, WIPA, and a former Jamaican player, has explained that the organization is asking for due process regarding Kevin Sinclair, who's been barred from representing Guyana in the regional domestic competition. Lewis says the matter, which is now going beyond 2 years, should result in the player being brought before a disciplinary committee if there's any truth to him having disciplinary issues with the Guyana Cricket Board.
To 2 senior members in the Guyana setup about the situation. I've spoken to Ramnavi Sawan about how we can fix the situation because with Kevin Sinclair, because there's never any disciplinary situation where we went in front of a disciplinary committee and he was banned. It never happened. Situations happen, and they just made a decision that we're going to put him aside without due process, and we are not pleased about that. And we've opened the situation again. I've spoken to Chris Terry over the weekend. I've spoken to Mr. Bashcom over the weekend, and he's put all the correspondence together to reopen the situation.
And Wayne has got more to say, but you'll hear from him when we come back at 6:05 in our major sportscast. Let's continue. We got football now, because the Jamaican national senior women's football team will take to the field at the National Stadium in just under 2 hours' time as they continue their bid for a third straight World Cup FIFA appearance. The Group B CONCACAF qualifier is the first of a 2-game stop for the Reggae Girls, who will also face Guyana at the same venue come next weekend. This will be the first time playing at home for the national team since December 24, and they'll start the game as overwhelming favorites to secure a third straight victory in the qualifiers following wins over Dominica and Nicaragua. Head coach Hubert Busby says his squad is focused on making a strong start to the game. Busby emphasized the importance of setting the tone early in the campaign, noting that a strong performance could be key to building momentum throughout the qualifiers.
What it means to have the office packed, we know what it means to have the people behind us, get them out of their seat, that 12th person, man, woman, to be behind this group. So we want to come out with a very positive energy, obviously be the provocateur, take the games to the teams. That's what we really want to do. Football is obviously sometimes not like that. You have to make adjustments along the way, but our mindset is to start the game with a very positive approach.
That's coach of the national senior women's football team, Hubert Busby. And the group winners in this stage of the CONCACAF qualifiers, all group winners will advance to the CONCACAF final in November. From there, they'll be battling against the likes of the United States and Canada and Costa Rica for places at the World Cup finals in Brazil come next year. And talking about the World Cup and our final story in this sportscast, Jamaica's top football referee O'Shane Nation has told Nationwide Sports that he's experiencing mixed emotions after he was named amongst 52 referees to work at the FIFA World Cup finals this summer in the US, Canada, and Mexico. The St. Catherine native will serve as the country's sole representative at the World Cup, stepping into the spotlight in a tournament that will showcase the best football players in the world. And Nation told Nationwide Sports that this is a dream, a lifelong dream that's finally come true.
Of course, I'm excited, elated for this opportunity to be selected among these chosen referees. But at the same time, I'm humbled because, there are so many referees across the world. And for me to be selected, coming from CONCACAF, representing CONCACAF, representing Jamaica, representing my family, it's definitely a dream that's happening, a dream that is happening, so I'm living in a dream. I think it's just the start of something amazing. So I'll be forever grateful and thankful. Couldn't have been possible without the help of the Master, the Almighty God, so I'm grateful.
Congratulations in order to O'Shane Nation. The FIFA list also includes 88 assistant referees. There are also 30 video assistant referees, VAR, for a total of 170 officials. That's 41 more than worked at Qatar 2022. That will do it for sports. We're going to be back, as I mentioned, at 6:05 in our major sportscast. And at that time, you'll be hearing from Alric Swebe.
Sports at 5 was brought to you by Total Tools. Total Tools, every tool, every trade.
For all your custom framing, printing, graphic design, and purchase of art, Make It Frame Art Jamaica Limited, serving you for over 40 years. The time by Frame Art Jamaica is
5:32.
Upgrade your drive with Hyundai and Scotiabank. 4.99% interest, 0 fees, and 1-year insurance free. Choose from the Hyundai Venue, Palisade, Tucson, or Creta. Visit Kingston or Montego Bay showrooms. The temperature by Hyundai is
29 degrees Celsius in Kingston and Montego Bay.
Every professional reaches a moment when growth calls. A promotion, a new opportunity, a bigger vision. At Mona School of Business and Management, our globally competitive graduate programs, including the internationally accredited MBA, are designed for ambitious professionals who are ready to lead. With flexible delivery options that fit your lifestyle, advancing your career is within reach. Learn from world-class faculty. Connect with influential leaders. Transform your future. Visit discover.msbm-uwi.org and apply online for a graduate degree. MSBM, Global Knowledge, Regional Solutions.
It's hard-hitting. It's riveting. It's the much-talked-about cover story during Nationwide at 5. Here Cliff Hughes get to the heart of the story of the day. Cover Story aired 5:30 weekdays during Nationwide at 5. Nationwide at 5. Talk radio at its best. Cover Story.
Cover Story is brought to you by JTA Credit Union, serving our members, impacting lives positively.
Multilink, roll with control. Use Multilink, save fast and accepted in more locations.
Exciting news! The Design Studio on Nationwide 90 FM just got a whole lot bigger. Join us this and every Saturday now from 1 to 3 p.m. for an exclusive show that elevates your home, mind, and soul. Discover the latest interior design trends to create your dream sanctuary. Unlock your true potential with personal growth strategies. Nourish your body and spirit with expert wellness tips. Don't miss out on the inspiration you need to live your best life. Tune in to the Design Studio this and every Saturday from 1 to 3 p.m. and take the first step towards a more fulfilling you.
Make me sweat, make me harder.
Good afternoon, listeners, viewers. Welcome. It's 5:35. It's now time for the cover story, and I'm your host, Siobhan Campbell. I hope you're enjoying this. Well, I would say pleasant, but it started raining, but I still consider it pleasant weather. So I hope you're enjoying this pleasant Friday afternoon, and those who will be taking part in the festivities over the weekend, I hope you enjoy yourself. Well, on the cover story, we are still touching on that very sensitive topic. I think a lot of Jamaicans concerned, the potential rise in food and energy prices as a result of the ongoing conflict in the Middle East. And we're not the only ones concerned, because the leadership of the Caribbean Community, CARICOM, is moving to formulate a coordinated response to mitigate potential fallout from the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran on the region's energy and food security. Acting Assistant Secretary General of CARICOM, that's Dr. Wendell Samuel, discussed the issue during a high-level panel discussion held by the Food and Agriculture Organization, the FAO of the United Nations, on Friday. A fragile ceasefire is in place in the Middle East war as U.S., Israel, and Iran gear up for potential peace talks in the conflict that began in February. But with no certainty the conflict will come to an end anytime soon, Dr. Samuel says the region's economies remain highly exposed in spite of geographic and political distance.
While the Caribbean region is geographically distant from the conflict, our economies remain highly exposed to the global shocks transmitted through energy markets, food systems, and international supply chains. CARICOM's high import dependence for food, fuel, fertilizers, and shipping services mean that the external geopolitical tensions quickly morph into domestic economic challenges. Inflation, food affordability, fiscal stability are not abstract risks for us. They are immediate public policy concerns. It is therefore important that we focus on the impact transmission mechanisms and the practical options for coordinated regional action. So let's look at the strategic risks. Currently, the situation reflects enduring structural vulnerabilities rather than isolated shocks. Historically, global conflicts disproportionately affect small import-dependent states, and this one is no different. The IMF has reported that small fuel-importing states have been the most affected by disruptions caused by the war in Iran. Energy volatility, fertilizer shortages, and shipping disruptions interact to produce compounded economic and social pressures. Accordingly, a fragmented response will be insufficient. This situation calls for a coordinated strategy, and this is absolutely essential. The CARICOM region has formulated a draft response matrix to seek to mitigate the projected fallout and challenges to food security. This will be presented to the Ministers of Agriculture for their consideration, adoption, and implementation. The response matrix is intended to act as a comprehensive policy framework that, 1, links external shocks to policy responses, thus ensuring a holistic approach. It identifies sequencing and targeting responses, proposes short-term rapid measures to stabilize conditions while the long-term reforms strengthen resilience and reduce vulnerability. And it also calls for regional, collective, and collaborative action. These collaborative regional efforts enhance resilience through shared systems and harmonized monitoring beyond national responses. So please allow me to elaborate briefly on a possible proposed response as outlined in the draft regional response matrix. Energy price shocks. The first and most immediate channel of transmission is energy. Escalation in the conflict creates a volatility in oil markets, directly increasing electricity, transportation, agricultural production costs across member states. In the near term, governments may need to apply carefully targeted measures to protect household and essential sectors. Over the longer term, the war reinforces the strategic imperative for accelerating renewable energy deployment and reducing fossil fuel dependence, particularly in food production systems. Fertilizer supply disruptions. Fertilizer markets are highly sensitive to geopolitical instability and energy prices. Disruptions risk reduced yields, higher food production costs, and increased import dependence, particularly affecting staple crops. Short-term mitigation must include prioritizing strategic crops and promoting alternative or organic inputs where feasible, as suggested by Her Excellency, the Minister from Guatemala.
That's Wendell Samuel. He is the acting Assistant Secretary General of CARICOM. Well, the weeks-long hostilities in the Middle East have already caused a near standstill in the traffic passing through the vital energy corridor, the Strait of Hormuz. As of today, Friday, average global oil prices remain elevated between $95 and $99 per barrel. That's well above the $70 per barrel recorded before the conflict. Dr. Samuel says the fiscal space of CARICOM member states may limit them from adequately assisting their citizens where food insecurity is concerned.
Strategically, diversification of fertilizer supplies and exploration of regional or domestic production capacity will have to be considered as part of our food sovereignty agenda. Shipping and logistic risk. Shipping and logistics represent a critical vulnerability for small island states. Heightened geopolitical risk increases in freight rates, insurance costs, and the likelihood of delays. For CARICOM economies with limited storage and just-in-time import systems, these disruptions can rapidly translate into shortages and price instability. Immediate coordination around essential imports is required, while medium-term solutions must include regional shipping arrangements and regional strategic reserves. Turning to the global food price inflation. Supply pressures have pushed up global food price inflation with direct consequences for household welfare and social stability. Governments may need to rely on well-targeted food subsidies, cash transfers, and school feeding programs to protect the most vulnerable. However, the extent of these interventions are severely limited by the member states' dearth of fiscal space and elevated public debt levels. The long-term priority must be the strengthening of shock-resistant, shock-responsive social protection systems capable of scaling during crises. Macroeconomic exchange rate pressures. At the macroeconomic level, rising import bills place pressure on foreign reserves, fiscal space, and exchange rates. Inflationary pressures risk undermining the development gains that the countries have achieved over the last years and complicating debt management. This underscores the importance of prudent fiscal targeting in the short term and coordinated regional approaches to import substitution, financing, and risk sharing in the longer term. Rising food insecurity and social risk. The gravest risk is rising food insecurity. Left unaddressed, this can increase poverty, malnutrition, and social tensions. Empirically, it has been shown that small changes in real income translate into large movements in poverty rates and consequently food insecurity. Emergency food assistance may be required in some contexts, but sustained resilience depends on productivity-enhancing technologies, climate-smart agriculture, and strengthened regional food systems.
That's the acting Secretary General there for CARICOM talking about the precariousness the region finds itself in as a result of the very distant, both politically and geographically, conflict over there in the Middle East, but yet Jamaica and CARICOM still suffering the ill effects as a result. We're going to take a break and then we come back with more from that FAO high-level panel discussion.
1, 2, 3, boom. Green light.
You mean red light?
Green light. Everything easy and instant when you click the chatbot icon on the CNWJ Credit Union webpage.
Say what?
Just become a member of CNWJ Credit Union. You can save, make deposits, and get loans. Speaking of loans, once you become a member, you can instantly apply for a loan right there online and have the cash in your hand within 24 hours.
We are chatbot.
No, chatbot.
Conditions apply. CNWJ Credit Union. Discover the benefits of belonging.
Jamaica Post is committed to being your preferred logistics partner. Enjoy the convenience of 3 to 5 days for international shipments at competitive rates and next business day delivery for local packages. Take advantage of our fast, reliable and ever-evolving services. Zip Mail, Click and Ship, Fast Track, EMS, Parcel Service, Registered Mail, Corporate Mail Service and Private Letterbox. Access customer service support and track packages online. Visit our post offices island-wide and premium service centers at select locations. For more information, go to jamaicapost.gov.jm. Conditions apply.
For all your electrical needs, visit ABC Electrical Sales. They stock a wide variety of electrical supplies including plugs, switches, panel boards and conduits, plus energy-saving fixtures. ABC Electrical Sales stocks brands like GE, Siemens, Philips, Cutler Hammer and Allen Bradley. They also offer free island-wide delivery just to suit your needs. Visit them at Shop 8, Hagley Park Plaza, Kingston 10, or call 876-754-3714-5 or 876-754-3825-8. ABC Electrical Sales, for a better choice in the electrical business.
Welcome back, listeners, viewers, to the cover story. I'm your host, Siobhan Campbell. We're giving you some excerpts from a high-level panel discussion which was had just this afternoon. The Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations discussing the implications of the continued conflict in the Middle East between U.S., Israel, and Iran, and impact on energy and food prices as a result of significant disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz, that major energy corridor. You've been hearing from the Assistant Secretary General of CARICOM, that's Dr. Wendell Samuel. But before we go back to that, I wanted to key in on something Dr. Samuel suggested there, that the region really needs to look after itself, especially when it comes to matters such as its fiscal sustainability, its food security. And I just want to go back, just to remind Jamaicans what this nation specifically, and this is just not looking at the region completely, but what this nation specifically has been through in just 2.5 short years. We had Hurricane Beryl early 2024 or mid 2024. July, yes, mid 2024. Thank you for that, Dana. Then we had Tropical Storm Raphael not shortly after that in October, November. Then fast forward 2025, we had Hurricane Melissa. And then we're just now getting out of Hurricane Melissa. And what do we have? A conflict brewing in the Middle East of no fault of our own. And that, again, is set to hit us severely as a result of food and energy and other inflation concerns. It just goes to remind us that something that Dr. Damian King said quite recently, and even before that, echoed by the former and current Finance Minister, Dr. Nigel Clark and Favour Williams, that there is always a crisis on the horizon, and it is very important that we keep our fiscal houses in order. Which is why when I heard on The Point with George Davis, Chris Issa suggest something as to raising a concern as to why are we trying to get the debt to GDP ratio so low. But this is the reason why. It's situations such as this. You can't lay off on such a concern as the debt to GDP ratio. You can't lay off of creating that necessary fiscal space because it's always going to be needed. There is always trouble brewing, whether naturally or artificially created, as we see in terms of recent news. And just before that, the natural disaster of Hurricane Melissa. We cannot just put our steps on the brakes and say, no, that's enough. Let's just ease up and just focus on other things. All matters of the state in terms of where Jamaica stands, in terms of geopolitics and its vulnerabilities, must bear in mind the need for fiscal independence and fiscal responsibility. We always have to have that conservative thinking in mind when we make any decision about spending. And this, again, this crisis in the Middle East and Hurricane Melissa should keep that on the forefront of everyone's mind, whether it's you as just a private citizen, whether you're in the opposition, or whether in the government. When you are formulating policies, when you're considering any policy for the country, always bear in mind that there is always something in the future that could set us back. And I just wanted to say that before we continued into this discussion with the Acting Assistant Secretary General, who says regional coordination and on procurement and logistics are among the areas which must be strengthened in the region.
So what then are the key takeaways? First, the conflict poses potential systemic risk to CARICOM food and economic security. Second, short-term crisis measures must be aligned with long-term structural transformation. And third, regional coordination enhances our collective resilience, bargaining power, and capacity to absorb external shocks. So what are the recommended regional actions? At the regional level, priority actions could include strengthening regional coordination on procurement, logistics, and strategic reserves, accelerating investment in renewable energy and food system resilience, enhancing policy alignment to allow rapid collective response during external shocks, and reinforcing regional institutions tasked with food security and economic surveillance. In closing, this moment calls for strategic thinking and regional solidarity. The decisions we take now will determine not only how CARICOM navigates this crisis, but how prepared we are for the future global disruptions. Resilience, cooperation, and shared responsibility must therefore guide our response.
That is Wendell Samuel. He is the Assistant Secretary General for CARICOM. Well, also speaking at the FAO's panel was their chief economist, that's Dr. Maximo Torero. I hope I said that correctly. He says it's essential for ships to be moved through the Strait of Hormuz during the period of ceasefire. Please note, however, that Dr. Torero's message was in Spanish, but it was translated during the presentation, so you'll be hearing the translation. Please have a listen.
Let me make it very clear that this is not an Eastern crisis. It's not a crisis that only affects Asia. Rather, this is a crisis that began in the East, but that has quickly moved west. And so we need to be quite careful with what is going on. So what is taking place? Well, first of all, it's important to mention that 35% of global oil exports go through the Strait of Hormuz, and 20% of the natural gas used to produce nitrogen also goes through that same strait, and 20 to 30% of fertilizer exports as well. And now we also know that 55 to 80% of the food imports rely on this strait, and except for Iran and Iraq. And we know that this is an issue on the input side, and it could also be an issue on the demand side for those countries exporting to the Gulf countries. So there is a short-term mechanism that is quite simple. When we have cut off access to energy and fertilizer that we have seen, this has a global impact on prices. And when global prices increase, and I would like to underscore global, because some countries have reserves and stocks. Of course, again, they have to face global price changes. And when you increase global prices, these will have an impact on producers on the logistics side and on the energy side, or because they use diesel to transport their materials through the global supply chains. And we know that this will have an impact on the decisions they make, and we see that the commodity prices are dropping while the input prices are increasing, affecting the producers' margins. And this will lead them to take key decisions. I will delve deeper into that in a bit. Now, how have we analyzed this situation? Well, we have broken it down into different time frames because everything is reliant on the agricultural calendar schedule, and countries that are key producers of or importers of these products face major challenges. So let me talk about the 30-day time frame. There has been a shock related to fertilizers. Fertilizer and energy prices have increased, and the price of natural gas has increased, and therefore farmers need to decide if they are going to plant with fewer inputs, thereby affecting their productivity negatively, or if they simply will not plant, or perhaps they will move towards commodities in the case of grains, where they can focus more on nitrogen or move from corn to wheat or to soy. So now on Sunday and Monday, an agreement was reached to have no more bombing in the Strait of Hormuz among the countries or between U.S. and Iran. Thus far, we have not seen any changes with regard to the number of ships moving through the strait. Now, what will happen? What is happening? It's essential for this peace period to continue, but it's also essential to see movement of the ships through the strait. Now, for example, the moment the agreement is signed, there will be no more attacks, and then obviously we saw that the price of oil dropped down to 94, and we've seen now that the Brent oil price globally is at 98.86. 90, if speaker corrects himself, 90.68, and it is reaching the limit of 100, and that is the result of no movement of these ships through the strait. So if the ships do not start moving throughout the strait, and if we have this period of peace, but that does not result in any movement through the strait, we will see that there will be a contraction of the performance for the second half of the year and for next year with regard to farming. And again, this will be impacted by the price of energy because all commodities call for energy, and all final products reaching the consumers at the retail or supermarket level will be affected as well. For example, we know that a piece of bread calls for wheat, and that will be affected as well. So in the end, all of these products call for energy.
So that's Dr. Maximo Torero, Chief Economist at the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations. He was speaking at a high-level panel discussion held by the organization on Friday, looking at the implications of the Middle East conflict for agri-food systems. So there you have it, listeners. Just a few weeks of disruption, as said there by Dr. Torero, could lead to months of pain as a result of higher food prices and higher energy prices. That's just the price we now pay for the globally interconnected world that we now live in, that just those few weeks there of disruption at the Strait of Hormuz leads to so much woes for us in Jamaica, so far removed from that conflict. But as a result, we just hope that the peace talks between the United States and Iran, as they are set to get on the way in a few days, I believe, if not even sooner than that, we get some long-lasting results from that. Say what you want to say about either parties in this matter and what should be done in the long term, but in the short term, in order to get the world here in Jamaica, here in CARICOM, the relief it needs from what has already been a very, very difficult past 2 years. We need those talks to go as smoothly and as swimmingly as possible. But that's where we have to leave things at the cover story. Please stay tuned for the headlines at 6, and then we come back at 6:25 with the nation's business. I'm your host, Siobhan Campbell.
The time brought to you by Guardian Life. Live secure, live easy is...
It's 6 o'clock.
Nationwide headlines at 6.
Good evening with the headlines at 6. I'm Mahiri Stewart. The leadership of the Caribbean Community, CARICOM, is moving to formulate a coordinated response to mitigate potential fallout from the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran on the region's energy and food security. Acting Assistant Secretary General of CARICOM, Wendell Samuel, discussed the issue during a high-level panel discussion held by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations on Friday. With no certainty the conflict will come to an end anytime soon, Samuel says the region's economies remain highly exposed in spite of geographic and political distance.
Our economies remain highly exposed to the global shocks transmitted through energy markets, food systems, and international supply chains. CARICOM's high import dependence for food, fuel, fertilizers, and shipping services mean that the external geopolitical tensions quickly morph into domestic economic challenges. Inflation, food affordability, fiscal stability are not abstract risks for us. They are immediate public policy concerns.
The weeks-long hostilities have already caused a near standstill in traffic passing through the vital energy corridor, the Strait of Hormuz. As of today, Friday, average global oil prices remain elevated between $95 and $99 per barrel. That's well above the $70 recorded before the conflict. Samuel says small import-dependent states like those of CARICOM will be more vulnerable to the impacts of the crisis.
Currently, the situation reflects enduring structural vulnerabilities rather than isolated shocks. Historically, global conflicts disproportionately affect small import-dependent states, and this one is no different. Energy volatility, fertilizer shortages, and shipping disruptions interact to produce compounded economic and social pressures. Accordingly, a fragmented response will be insufficient. This situation calls for a coordinated strategy, and this is absolutely essential.
Wendell Samuel, Acting Assistant Secretary General of CARICOM. The Jamaica Constabulary Force is advising the public to prepare for major traffic disruptions related to carnival activities in the corporate area this weekend. Among the major corridors to be impacted are Arthur Wint Drive, Mountain View Avenue, Hope Road, Trafalgar Road, Lady Musgrave Road, and Knutsford Boulevard. Key intersections along Waterloo Road, Halfway Tree Road, and Oxford Road will also see traffic diversions at various points. Senior Communications Strategist of the JCF, Senior Superintendent Dennis Brooks, says the changes will vary before, during, and after each parade.
Motorists are therefore urged to avoid designated parade routes and utilize alternate routes where possible. There will be parking restrictions. No vehicles will be allowed to park along the parade routes. Vehicles parked and left unattended will be towed at the owner's expense. In terms of periphery monitoring, alternate routes on the periphery of the parade will be closely monitored by the police, so no obstructions, whether caused by vehicles or otherwise, will be tolerated.
SSP Brooks outlined a number of actions that will be prohibited during the events.
The distribution of free items along the parade route is strictly prohibited. Such activities can lead to dangerous crowd surges or stampedes, which may result in serious injury or even death, so that is not allowed. The establishment of sound systems along the parade routes is prohibited, as these may disrupt the orderly flow of the official event. The JCF maintains a zero-tolerance policy regarding unauthorized vehicles within the parade space. Motorcycles, ATVs, and pedal cyclists will not be allowed to join the parade.
SSP Dennis Brooks, Senior Communications Strategist of the JCF. Leader of Opposition Business in the House of Representatives, Philip Paulwell, says he's concerned about a reported decision by the Ethics Committee to summon Member of Parliament Dennis Gordon. Paulwell finds the decision curious, considering the matter has already been ventilated and approved by the House of Representatives.
Let me be clear. The Ethics Committee had already examined the exemption request, reported its findings to the House, and the House subsequently approved the motion. Once that process has been completed, the committee's role in that matter is effectively concluded. Any attempt to revisit it must be grounded in a clearly defined new breach and a proper referral from the House.
The Ethics Committee on Wednesday voted to summon Gordon in relation to information coming to light surrounding the UHWI Jack Den scandal. Its government members are concerned that information he may have provided to the committee in seeking an exemption to pursue government contracts is inaccurate based on what is now in the public domain. It should be noted no opposition member of the committee attended Wednesday's sitting. But Paulwell is cautioning that the move raises serious concerns about consistency and procedural fairness, particularly amid broader criticisms about the uneven functioning of parliamentary committees. And operations at Spanish Town Hospital in St. Catherine have returned to normal following a bomb threat on Thursday. Patients and staff, except those in emergency areas, were evacuated from the facility. The Jamaica Fire Brigade's divisional head for St. Catherine, Superintendent Dennis Lyon, gave our news center the update on Friday.
Following the information that we received that a bomb was planted on the compound of the Spanish Town Hospital, the team from the Jamaica Constabulary Force K9 Division, they carried out a primary search of the entire compound, and while the brigade stand by. After they report to us that they have checked everything, the brigade now carried out a secondary search because our role there was to search and rescue. And we checked all the areas to include the car park, and having satisfied that they have not seen anything that would warrant any suspicion, I gave the instructions for operation to resume at the facility.
Superintendent Dennis Lyon, the Jamaica Fire Brigade's divisional head for St. Catherine. Those are the headlines at 6. I'm Mahiri Stewart. Sports is next.
The UCC Corporate Education Division is now accepting applications for a series of professional certificate courses offered this semester. Over 75 short courses available in business, HR, computer skills, supervisory management, financial securities management, and so much more. Build productivity and give your workforce the winning edge. Pursue programs on any of our campuses island-wide. On-site at your workplace, online or on demand at your convenience. It's that simple. Apply online at www.ucc.edu.jm or call 876-906-3214 for further details. UCC, fostering leadership and innovation.
Hey yo, listen up. Don't wait for the symptoms start show. HIV test free. Make sure you know. Me take my test. Me get the news. Me take my meds. We can't lose. Family there, support there too. We strong, we bold life, I live right through. Live bold, test early. Test the HIV. No, you start a smooth surely. Me take my test. Me get the news. Me take my meds. We can't lose. Live bold, free testing is available at health centers island-wide. A message by the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Good evening with your sports report. I am Alwick Swaby. We bowl things off with some cricket as St. Elizabeth Technical High remain kings of local schoolboy cricket after retaining the Issa Spalding Cup on Friday when rain forced a premature end to their playoff encounter against St. Jago at Melbourne Oval. When play was called off late on the final day, sets were 196 for 1, batting a second time with an overall lead of 484. Jamari Bryce was not out 81 and Captain Tariq Bryan 79. They stood in a second unbroken stand of 139. Earlier, St. Jago, who resumed on 117 for 2, lost their last 8 wickets for 77 runs to be all out for 194. Raheem Willie bagged 4 for 58 and Vital Laws 4 for 179. Danza Hyatt Jr. led the batting with 65. Coach of Stets, Carl Wright, gave this reaction to his team's performance.
It was a team effort because I think everybody pick up wickets. So as I said, we have a team meeting and a flat wicket like this, we wanted to restrict the opponent, and by restricting the opponent, we have to get the ball in the right areas and hold on to our chances when we get them. And we did that, and it paid off.
Carl Wright. Now, Wayne Lewis, Honorary Secretary of the West Indies Players Association Whipper and former Jamaica first-class batsman, explained that the organization is asking for a due process regarding Kevin Sinclair, who's barred from representing Guyana at the domestic level. Lewis says the matter, which is now extending beyond 2 years, should result in the player being brought before a disciplinary committee if there's any truth of him having disciplinary issues with the Guyana Cricket Board.
To two senior members in the Guyana setup about the situation. I've spoken to Ramnari Sawan about how we can fix the situation because with Kevin Sinclair, because there's never any disciplinary situation where we went in front of a disciplinary committee and he was banned. It never happened. Situations happened and they just made a decision that we're going to put him aside without due process, and we are not pleased about that. And we've opened the situation again. I've spoken to Chris Terry over the weekend. I've spoken to Mr. Bashcom over the weekend, and he's put all the correspondence together to reopen the situation.
Sinclair was not selected for the Guyana RP Eagles squad for the upcoming West Indies Championships, and Lewis says Whipper is just seeking fairness on behalf of the player.
So we're not trying to be combative or anything. We just want to get the matter resolved and fairness on both sides. That's all we have asked for. We haven't been able to get to that level as yet, and we're still hoping that this time around that it will be resolved.
Wayne Lewis, Honorary Secretary of the West Indies Players Association, Whipper. Now to some football, as Jamaica's national senior women's football team will take to the National Stadium field in under an hour to face Antigua and Barbuda as they continue their bid to qualify for a third straight World Cup tournament. The Group B CONCACAF qualifier is the first of two game stop for the Reggae Girls, who will also face Guyana at the same venue next weekend. This will be the first time playing at home for the national team since December 24, and they'll start the game as overwhelming favorite to secure a third straight victory in the qualifiers following wins over Dominica and Nicaragua. Head coach Hubert Busby says his squad is focused on making a strong start to the game. Busby emphasized that the importance of setting the tone early is in the campaign, noting that a strong performance could be key to building momentum throughout the qualifiers.
And so we know what it means to play at home. We know what it means to have the office packed. We know what it means to have the people behind us, get them out of their seat, that 12th person, man, woman, to be behind this group. So we want to come out with a very positive energy, obviously be the provocateur, take the games to the teams. That's what we really want to do. Football is obviously sometimes not like that. You have to make adjustments along the way, but our mindset is to start the game with a very positive approach.
Hubert Busby, the group winners, will advance to the CONCACAF finals in November to battle for spots at next year's World Cup in Brazil. Now, Jamaica's top football referee, Hussein Nation, told Nationwide Sports that he's experiencing mixed emotions after he was named among 52 referees to officiate at the FIFA World Cup this summer. The World Cup will be staged across 3 countries, the USA, Canada and Mexico, June 11 to July 19. The St. Catherine native will serve as the country's sole representative at the World Cup, stepping into the spotlight in a tournament that will feature the world's top players and expanded international attention. Nation says it's a lifelong dream finally coming true.
Of course, I'm excited, elated for this opportunity to be selected among these chosen referees. But at the same time, I'm humbled because, there are so many referees across the world. And for me to be selected, coming from CONCACAF, representing Jamaica, representing my family, it's definitely a dream that's happening, a dream that is happening, so I'm living in a dream. I think it's just the start of something amazing. So I'll be forever grateful and thankful. Couldn't have been possible without the help of the Master, the Almighty God, so I'm grateful.
Hussein Nation. The FIFA list also includes 88 assistant referees and 30 video assistant referees VAR, bringing the total number of match officials to 170. Now to some track and field, as Jamaican sprint queen Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce has been named the newest global ambassador for the LaRousse movement, adding another milestone to her remarkable career, both on and off the track.
Changed my life, and I am proud to join a movement that uses sports to change young lives around the world. It is Nelson Mandela who said, "Sports has the power to change the world." That's a message I can support, because I have seen those words brought to life through my Pocket Rocket Foundation.
Fraser-Pryce is set to officially begin her ambassadorial role at the 2026 LaRousse World Sports Awards in Madrid on April 20. She returns to the LaRousse stage following 6 career nominations and a 2023 win for World Sportswoman of the Year. This year's nominees include standout performers from the 2025 World Athletics Championships, Melissa Jefferson Wooden, Sydney McLaughlin-Roney, and Fiki Taban, highlighting another strong era in women's athletics. Now, champions Fraser's Whip will go for win number 6 when they take on Los Perfectos in the Jamaica Women's Premier League at Brooks Park on Saturday at 3:30 p.m. Fraser's Whip are the only team with a 100% record with 15 points. Meanwhile, Real Mona take on second place Arnett Gardens in the first match of a doubleheader at Alpha Institute at 1 p.m. The second match will feature Cavalier against UWI Women at 3:30. In the other fixtures, Wi-Fi United face Proven Girls at Carter Park, Mile Gully hosts Springer United at Mile Gully Community Center, and Federal United welcome Real Mona Bay at Spanish Town Prison Oval. Now, the Mackay Security St. Thomas FA Under-17 competition gets underway tomorrow, launching a major youth football campaign across the parish with 5 scheduled matches in 2 zones and 11 teams set to compete. The tournament, which forms part of the wider football development structure in St. Thomas, is mandatory for all clubs participating in the Surge St. Thomas Major League, ensuring a steady pipeline of young talent feeding into senior football. In Zone A at 2 p.m., Golden Grove United will host Bath at Golden Grove, while at the same time, Port Morant All-Star face Seafoot at the Seafoot Community Center. Later in the afternoon at 4 p.m., Prospect take on York at Golden Grove in what is expected to be a closely contested fixture. Meanwhile, over at the Hearties Community Center, Zone B action begins at 2 p.m. with White Horses meeting Yalas All-Star. And at 4 p.m., Danvers Pen will go up against Baptist in the final match of the day. And finally, in ice hockey, President of the Jamaica Ice Hockey Federation, Don Anderson, says a key rule imposed by the International Ice Hockey Federation, IIHF, continues to block Jamaica's ambition of competing on the sport's biggest stages. Anderson says the IIHF's requirement that a country must have a regulation ice rink is the single greatest barrier preventing Jamaica from qualifying for elite tournaments such as the Winter Olympics and the World Championships.
Federation in December, following my attendance at the Congress in France in October. And it was the first time anybody from the International Federation was visiting Jamaica. So we're moving up in our recognition, and we're hoping that shortly they will see the wisdom of not insisting on an ice rink in countries like ours, who obviously will have a difficulty maintaining an ice rink, even if we can construct it. But we're working on that as well. So hopefully in a very short time we'll be able to qualify to play for Olympics and World Championships.
Now, despite that challenge, Jamaica's national team continues to gain experience internationally and is preparing for its 3rd appearance at the Challenger Series Ice Hockey in Chicago in May and Montreal in July. Anderson remains optimistic that the IIHF may reconsider its stance in the near future, particularly as non-traditional hockey nations continue to show growth and competitiveness.
Independent survey of the players, the general consensus is that it's ranked just outside the top 20 in the world. I could be wrong, but I said to the guys, give me your position. I know it's subjective, but I want a really frank view. And they gave me on the basis that they're playing against a number of the other teams and players from the other teams. And based on their own assessment, we're probably ranked about 25th in the world. Can't ask for more than that.
Dan Anderson, I'm Alex Raby, and that's your sports.
Become a member of your credit union. 70 years strong to build a reputation. Insurance, loan and investment. All your children's savings make dollars and cents. JBS and Partners Cooperative Credit Union. Your financial partner for life. 70 years you made your choice. JBS and Partners Cooperative Credit Union.
For all your electrical needs, visit ABC Electrical Sales. They stock a wide variety of electrical supplies including plugs, switches, panel boards and conduits, plus energy-saving fixtures. ABC Electrical Sales stocks brands like GE, Siemens, Philips, Cutler Hammer and Allen Bradley. They also offer free island-wide delivery just to suit your needs. Visit them at Shop 8, Hagley Park Plaza, Kingston 10, or call 876-754-3714-5 or 876-754-3825-8. ABC Electrical Sales, for a better choice in the electrical business.
If you've ever called in, shared your story, or got help on this show, then you're already family. Now make it official. Join the nationwide 90 FM Family Club today on Patreon.
Not a mercy. This one is very classic, dedicated to all the schoolers who are taking beats.
If you've ever struggled to pass an exam, then you'll know that students today are under great pressure to get good grades and secure qualification needed to move on to higher education. The problem is that too many students are struggling alone and could really benefit from connecting with hardworking teachers and other bright students in other parts of the country and the region. Join me, Dennis Brooks, this and every Friday evening from 8 to 9, with a repeat on Saturday morning from 8 to 9. For the A-Team, a study group on radio, my team of teachers, students, and experts will break down the syllabus, giving you information, tips, and past paper questions that will help you get top grades in your upcoming exams. Follow us on Facebook Live and on Twitter and be a part of the community. It's the A-Team, Fridays at 8 p.m. with a repeat at 8 o'clock on Saturday morning. It's your free extra class on radio and social media. And it's right here on Nationwide 90 FM, the revolution in media.
Come into the parlor, there's a welcome there for you.
Welcome to the Mayor's Parlor with Desmond McKenzie.
From 1 to 6 p.m. every Sunday, you'll now get more of your favorite vintage music.
Put your head on my shoulder.
Nationwide 90 FM will transform your Sunday into a musical time machine that will take you way back.
Come on, let's go back in time.
This magic moment.
Journey into yesteryear with Desmond McKenzie in the Mayor's Parlor.
I've got the music to jog your memory and make you smile.
Put your sweet lips a little closer to the phone.
Sit back, relax, and enjoy the best in vintage music.
Come into the Mayor's Parlor every Sunday between 1 and 6 p.m. here on Nationwide 90 FM, a revolution in media.
Those oldies but goodies reminds me of you.
Sweeten the beverage tax in Jamaica, balancing health, revenue, and impact. Get ready for an important conversation on the non-alcoholic sweetened beverage tax, balancing health, revenue, and impact on Nationwide at 5 April 13 from 6:25 p.m. to 7 p.m. This conversation brings together leaders from government, academia, and civil society to break down Jamaica's non-alcoholic sweetened beverage tax. What does it mean for your health? What does it mean for your wallet? What does it mean for a country's future? This conversation is for everyone. The diabetic, hypertensive, the healthy. Just about anyone. No angle will be left uncovered. This conversation won't be sweet, but it'll be bold and balanced. Join the conversation on April 13 at 6:25 p.m. to 7 p.m. during Nationwide at 5. Catch this and so much more only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. This broadcast is brought to you by the Heart Foundation of Jamaica.
Jamaica, if you love Jamaica, let me see your hand. Raise it to the sky and let me see.
Welcome back, listeners, viewers. It is 6:25. It is time for the nation's business. I'm Siobhan Campbell. Welcome back again. And we turn to more local matters now, where the Jamaica Social Investment Fund, that's JSIF, has reported its highest ever project disbursement. That's $4.1 billion for the 24-2025 fiscal year. Managing Director Omar Sweeney says the milestone in project execution and delivery reflects significant growth in the agency's operations. He attributed the increase to several factors, including stronger government funding support and improved operational efficiency. Key contributors included the World Bank-funded READY 2 project, which exceeded its fiscal allocation, along with the government-backed initiatives such as the ICDP2 and ongoing community electrification projects. Other major programs supporting the agency's output included the Caribbean Development Bank-funded Basic Needs Trust Fund, the Green Climate Fund Readiness Program, and the Kingston Waterfront Improvement Project. JSIF said the strong disbursement performance enabled the agency to meet all its key project deliverables for the fiscal year. Beyond the project execution, the organization also reported progress in strengthening its governance framework. Measures introduced include an enterprise risk management system alignment with the Jamaica Data Protection Act and the implementation of policies addressing sexual harassment, ethics, and integrity in line with the Integrity Commission disclosure guidelines. Chairman of the JSIF board, Wayne Henry, said the agency remains committed to continuous improvement in governance. The record-breaking outturn positions JSIF among the government's leading project management agencies with responsibility for delivering infrastructure works and social intervention programs targeting vulnerable communities across the country. Well, joining us to discuss further is JSIF's Managing Director, Omar Sweeney. Good evening, Sir Sweeney.
Hi, good evening. How are you? Good evening to your listeners.
It is good to hear from you, sir. So this is excellent news. In an era where there are so many concerns about getting projects off the ground, it seems JSIF is bucking the trend. What has contributed to this?
Well, first, not to pretend that it's easy. It still is hard work, but we do have a number of things in our favor, which includes truly first a hard-working, dedicated staff. And we have strong partners that we've been working with, and most of all, I have to recognize the communities we work with. We've been embraced in the community, and that has really contributed to our success. Whether urban or rural, we're well received and are able to execute our projects.
So, on the matter of communities, because you do work very closely with communities across Jamaica, what does this milestone mean in terms of the highest ever, in terms of getting those projects off the ground? What does that mean for those communities?
Well, it means a lot, especially in the context of post-Melissa. We have been doing a balance between our rural development portfolio, our urban renewal portfolio, our community electrification program, our citizen security, so we have a good diversity and spread across communities and types of interventions that we think certainly has contributed to quality of life and stability and ensuring that, of course, that the ideals of Vision 2030 can be met. So in doing our part as a social investment fund, especially targeting the most vulnerable across Jamaica, we are happy to report that not only were we able to achieve this disbursement, but we have been accountable to it. The results that you have read out are our 2024-2025 audited financial reports, and we recently concluded our annual general meeting. So governance is a big part of it, because it's easy to spend money, but to spend money and be accountable for it, that's a big part of our achievement here. So we look forward to continuing to work
in this way with the communities and do our work across Jamaica.
So please explain to our listeners, what were those key strategic priorities for the 2024-25 fiscal year? What guided JCF during that period of time?
Well, if you took it by portfolio, our work, for instance, in continuing to improve schools at the primary and primary education level, schools in Hanover, Kendall Primary, and Mount Moriah Primary, and Greenhill Primary in Westmoreland. In Clarendon, we have in Franklin Town, we have schools there. So we did a lot of work there. We started another school in Lower River, Trelawney. So across the West in particular, upgrading those schools into state-of-the-art facilities was a big priority for us. Continuing to work with the economic livelihood of farmers, with the greenhouse farmers, battling the drought, battling the climate change conditions has been a big part for us, and continuing to work in urban communities, especially around enterprise development, people doing small businesses and being able to contribute to their own livelihood has been a big part of our priority. And then finally, our rural electrification, pole line infrastructure, and bringing persons onto the GPS grid, which is an important quality of life imperative, is something that we did. So those are our main 4 areas of focus in the last fiscal year. And so we continue as we go along now, looking at similar priorities and some new ones.
And JCF has a very broad mandate, as you just outlined. There are so many different things that JCF has to juggle in terms of priorities and different areas of expertise that you need to find and implement. How do you get all of that off the ground and keep those priorities straight? Can you hear me, Sir Sweeney? Are you there? Oh, I think we might have some technical issues there. I think we'll try to get contact with Sir Sweeney again. So he's there explaining to us how JCF has been working over the last fiscal years to try and manage its priorities in terms of getting those very varied projects off the ground for Jamaicans in the overall arching goal of social improvement of the lives of many Jamaicans, whether it be schools, electrification, infrastructure, so many pies that JCF tries to get their fingers in. But we will have to take a break, listeners, and then we come back. We hope to have Mr. Sweeney with us.
Drive the most exciting new vehicles in Jamaica. Schedule your 2024 Ford Ranger pickup or Ford Everest 7-seater SUV test drive now. Call or visit KIG today.
The time by KIG is...
It's 6:33.
Every day, Rosie has a glass of fruit drink with breakfast, an energy drink on the way to work, a flavored water with lunch, and 2 glasses of soda with dinner, which adds up to more than 50 teaspoons of sugar a day. And all that extra sugar could bring on obesity. Are we drinking ourselves sick? 71% of Jamaicans support a tax on sugary drinks. Help tackle obesity and protect our children's future. A message from the Heart Foundation of Jamaica.
So welcome back, listeners, viewers, to Nation's Business, where we're talking the Jamaica Social Investment Fund with its Managing Director, Omar Sweeney. If you're just catching up with us, JCF is reporting its highest ever project disbursement. That's $4.1 billion for the 2024-2025 fiscal year. So I understand you're back with us, Sir Sweeney?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Good to have you back. So as I said, I was just asking you, JCF's very, very broad mandate means you have a lot to juggle in so many different areas, so many different expertise that have to be brought to bear. How do you go about managing those priorities to ensure that everything gets off the ground?
Well, we do have quite a diverse collection of staff here at JCF. We have engineers, architects, quantity surveyors, economists, social scientists. You know, we do have a number of persons with the training and the skill set. And what we try to do is to blend that into a composite intervention for the vulnerable. And so we offer or really work towards a performance phased system that, we have targets and we set our targets on our timelines and work towards it. And then we have strong governance. Beyond our senior management, our board meets monthly, and all the committees of the board and this sort of thing to make sure that the financials and the projects and the procurement in particular and compliance is in effect. So it's a great number of moving parts, but we try to stay on top of it and ensure that, of course, our beneficiaries and the people who partner with us on these projects all get what they're looking for.
And speaking of governance and accountability, I mean, considering all you have to manage and the level of funds and the varied source of that funding that JCF has to bring to bear, how have you managed to maintain your efficiency and accountability framework in ensuring that those projects are delivered properly?
Well, one of the things we have to also reporting, accountability and transparency is one of the ways that we really like to use to ensure we stay on track. So what that means typically is, and I like to say it simply, we tell people what we're going to do, we do it, and then we tell them what we just did. And if you have to reach to number 3 in particular, where you have to say to persons, I did what I told you I was going to do, then you try to stay as much as you can on track and make sure that systems and processes are not undermined. And so this is a big part of it. Our multilateral partners and our government partners too, we dialogue with them consistently, and not only face-to-face meetings, but using electronic media. And so we have supervision missions, we have quarterly meetings, we have monthly meetings, and so this is how we operate, and it has really contributed to our success. And so what we try to do as well, including our meetings with communities, is to have the right fit for purpose in our projects and make sure that we're doing things well within our capacity and bring the right partners on at the right time. So some of it sounds cliche, but it is really what you have to do if you're going to be successful.
And speaking of bilateral and multilateral partners, the READY program successfully completed. Congratulations. But not only successfully completed, you exceeded expectations through that World Bank-backed project. What drove that success?
Well, we actually have another year left in READY. There was an extension to it because of some additional resources that came as a result of savings. And so we do expect to have a successful final completion in 2027. What we completed in the period was the DVRP, which was another World Bank project. And so that was our climate resilient project that did things like the fire stations and the coastal revetment. And so that in itself is a project that we are looking forward to expand on in another phase. And so certainly Melissa has taught us the necessity of being more resilient and adapting to climate change and the effects of climate change. So as we wait on the government to put the NARA in place, and we will be, we expect that we will have a role to play in Jamaica's recovery.
And so have you spoken with the government about what role JCF will play in terms of those NARA-backed projects?
Yeah, that quite frankly is a multiple times a week we're having conversations, not just JCF, several government agencies that are expected to be involved with the NARA once it comes online. And so as the government builds that out, we are providing our inputs, and we hope and expect that in short order that will be in play.
Okay. And speaking of the post-Hurricane Melissa realities, what is currently on JCF's agenda in terms of addressing many of those concerns raised by Hurricane Melissa and the communities impacted?
Okay, well, certainly since Melissa, we responded immediately. Obviously, initially, a lot of the response would be around relief, making sure persons were getting care packages and they were not in danger or, any harmful way. Subsequent in the last month or so, we've gone more into looking at some repairs at schools, and with our electrification program, you would have heard that we restored close more than 1,000 homes that were damaged in West Green and Catherine Hall with respect to their electrification under the National Energy Poverty Program. So that type of work continues. We've responded to farmers, women and youth in particular, that are working with chickens and coffee and other small crops. We responded in providing them inputs, black tanks, and irrigation equipment to help them to get them back up and running. And so we believe that is holding well. Certainly the farmers have over-exceeded our expectations in bringing produce back to the market. So JSIF is doing its role. I mean, we are an agency that that's our role in a post-Melissa situation. So we just responded in the way we could with the resources we had. And as more resources become available, we expect to see our interventions rise.
Excellent. So the record-breaking performance was for 2024-2025. We just concluded the 2025-2026 fiscal year. Mm-hmm. How was that? How did that shape up in terms of your outturn?
Well, I would love to say that we're going to break the last record. Unfortunately, Melissa did have a 3 to 4 month impact on our productivity, and so while it's early days yet because the audit is only just about starting now, I expect that we will be close to our prior year performance, because what we had to do is really fight to get back there. So I anticipate that we'll have a number plus or minus close to the $4 billion. Considering that Melissa had an impact there.
Understood. And speaking of that impact of Melissa for 2026-2027, what remains JSIF's priorities? I know you spoke about NAR and that will most likely play a role, but what remains JSIF's priorities more broadly and the focus for this fiscal year?
Well, we are going to continue to work, especially in rural development. We're going to continue, I think, a lion's share working with economic livelihoods of farmers and community tourism enterprises in this fiscal year. We are going to continue we have about 6 or 7 major school projects that we will be implementing in this fiscal year. Our electrification program is quite strongly funded and in demand, so that will continue. And then we expect, of course, that we will come to the table with some NARA-type interventions for physical recovery, whether it's school roads, water supply. That is to be determined, and that we'll probably hear more about in another 3 to 4 months at least.
Understood. That is Omar Sweeney. He is the managing director of the Jamaica Social Investment Fund, JSIF, reporting again a $4.1 billion record disbursement for projects for the 2024-2025 fiscal year. Says he doesn't expect to meet that record target due to the difficulties faced for the last fiscal year, but we can still hope, right, Mr. Sweeney?
Yes, of course. Of course. Hope springs eternal.
Understood. Thank you for joining us this evening, and all the best. Congratulations for what JSIF has accomplished and what it has accomplished for Jamaica. It is really appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Great.
Understood. We take a break, listeners, and when we come back, it's Around the World, and we will take you to Cuba, where their president has some very choice words for the President of the United States.
From the biggest tracks to the biggest energy, Nationwide keeps it moving. If you love the vibes, come and lock in with us for real.
World boss, leave a prison could stop me.
Join the Nationwide 90 FM Family Club today on Patreon.
Practice. God, me say you watch you over me practice.
Enough power tool, big to small. Chaka my figure dig the wall.
Upper total tools.
We walk a figure trim the lawn. We have everything a job demand.
Total tools.
We rent them, sell them and fix them. Also give Total Tools a call. When I say home improvement, landscape construction, a Total Tools are your option. Home improvement, landscape construction, Total Tools are your option. Total Tools, located at 102 Main Street, Ocho Rios, 34 Slipe Road, Kingston. And lot C6 Jacksall, St. Anne's Bay. Call us today.
Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, is a financial reporting firm that delivers accounting and compliance services on time. Call us today at 876-908-0486-7. Email us at clientservices@cocnjamaica.com or visit our website at www.cocnjamaica.com. COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology, and integrity.
Welcome back, listeners. It is right. That's right. It's now time for Around the World. As I said, we're going to Cuba, where President Miguel Diaz-Canel says he will not resign under U.S. pressure. In his first television interview with an American broadcaster, Diaz-Canel told NBC News on Thursday that Cuba is a free sovereign state that has self-determination and independence. He says his country is not subject to the designs of the United States. He criticized the Trump administration of implementing hostile policy against Cuba, noting the U.S. has no moral authority to demand anything from their country. The 65-year-old Diaz-Canel says the concept of revolutionaries giving up and stepping down is not part of his people's vocabulary. Here's more from NBC News.
Would you be willing to step down if it meant saving Cuba? ¿Está dispuesto a dimitir con tal de salvar a Cuba, para la gente de Cuba, al pueblo de Cuba?
Tú que eres una periodista
You are
importante,
very
reconocida.
important and
If the United
recognized
States
as journalist.
If the
Have you
United
ever
States
asked that
asked-
question to any other president in the world?
Because it's one of the conditions the United States is asking for. Would you ever consider that?
Let me explain. Have you asked that question to any other president
I
in the
asked
world?
very
Have you
tough
asked that question
questions
to any
to our
other
own
president in the
president,
world?
yes.
Se la podrías preguntar a Trump.
Could you ask
I
that
asked
question to
very
Trump?
hard questions
ver,
of President
a ver.
Trump.
Eso muestra, ¿es una pregunta tuya o es una pregunta del departamento?
Is that a question from you, or is that coming from the State Department of the U.S.
My
government?
question is, because it's one of the things that we've heard the U.S. government talk about, that they want political change here in Cuba. So my question
voy a-
for you,
voy a asumir que-
if they asked you, if they said this is one condition, would you
Por
step
tu
down?
sinceridad voy a asumir que
Because
vas
of
a
your
hacer
honesty, I'm going to assume that you're asking that question because of those reasons.
En Cuba, las personas que están
In Cuba, the people who are in leadership position is not elected by the U.S. government, and they don't have a mandate from the U.S. government. We have a free sovereign state, a free state. We have self-determination and independence, and we are not subjected to the designs of the United States.
Por otra parte,
On the other hand, Cuban leaders
no llegamos porque representamos una élite de poder.
are not here representing an elite of power. You can see my background, where I was born, my family, what I've done throughout my life. We are elected by the people, although there's a narrative trying to disregard that. Any one of us, before we become part of a leadership role, we need to be elected at the grassroots level in an electoral district by thousands of Cubans, and then those who represent the Cubans at the National Assembly of the People's Power elect those leadership positions and those offices like it happens in many other countries around the world. So we have an election system on the basis of people's participation. So whenever we take this responsibility position, and this leadership position is not out of our personal ambition or a corporate ambition or even a party ambition. We do that as a mandate by the people. And the concept of revolutionaries giving up and stepping down is not part of our vocabulary. If the Cuban people understand that I'm not fit for office, that I am not I have no risen to the occasion, then and I should not be holding this position of president, I will respond to them. But you need to realize that you should not focus only on the president of the country, because we have a collegiate leadership which is very closely linked to the people. But it's not the United States that can impose anything on us. The U.S. government that has implemented that hostile policy against Cuba has no moral to demand anything from Cuba. They have no moral, not even to say that they are concerned about the situation of the Cuban people and that the Cuban government has taken Cuba to this situation when they have all this responsibility on their shoulders. I think the most important thing would be for them to understand and take this critical position, a sincere position, and that they recognize how much it has cost the Cuban people, what the policy that they have implemented in terms of what they've done, and how much they have deprived the American people from a normal relationship with the Cuban people, and that they set out, as we have requested and as we have asked and as we're interested in, to engage in dialogue and discuss any topic without any condition, not demanding changes from our political system, as we are not demanding changes from the American system, about which we have a number of doubts and a number of considerations, and that we can focus on what brings us together and what can create spaces of understanding in order to move away from confrontation and having a path forward for both countries of benefits of friendship and solidarity.
We thank you for watching, and
That's Cuba's President Miguel Diaz-Canel talking about the call by the U.S. President for him to step down as conditions to ease up on the Bolivarian Republic there, the Spanish-speaking Republic of Cuba. And I really have to say, though, this suggestion that Cuba is a free sovereign state that has self-determination and independence, does that free sovereignty and self-determination and independence go down to the benefit of its citizens? That's the real question, because he suggests that Cuba is a democracy, but is it in a situation where the persons who do the voting are committees controlled by a one-party state? Can that be realistically considered a democracy under the strict definition of that word? I don't think I think that's a stretch there by Mr. Miguel Diaz-Canel. I'm not suggesting that he should be overthrown by a foreign power, but to suggest that the people of Cuba themselves have a significant say in the results of those elections when those elections are controlled firstly to a single party, meaning there can be no candidate outside of that party, and then the candidates elected through that party, one-party system, are chosen through committees controlled by that communist party. It is not a fair assessment to call Cuba a democratic state. So while I appreciate what he's suggesting, that there should not be any foreign meddling in his country, I would appreciate if he would at least go to the simple question as to what extent do the people of Cuba, the actual citizens, people living the day-to-day realities of Cuba, what extent do they have in the say of where their government goes, beyond the simple suggestion that, well, we meet the basic, stringent, as charitable definition of democracy as one can hold a country to. Outside of that, I hope the talks between Cuba and the United States go well, because I would like to see the country get the required assistance it needs, considering the difficulty it's found itself in recently in terms of energy and food concerns and other critical supplies. I do mean the best. I want the best for the Cuban people, not so much my interest into what happens to the Cuban state as it currently stands. I do believe, as has been suggested by many across the region, in the United States and across the world, that there is need for change in terms of the governance arrangements of Cuba. But that's not for me to decide. That's not for the US president to decide. That is for the people of Cuba to decide, as we do here in Jamaica on a half-decade regular basis, where we go to the polls and decide who will sit in governance at every level, whether it's the local government and the legislative level and the House of Representatives. We decide as the people of Jamaica who make up those arrangements. And the Cuban people do not get that choice unless you are very closely tied to the various committees and Communist Party establishments that ultimately decide who will sit at the highest annals of power in the Cuban Republic. So, listeners, that's where we are going to leave it this afternoon. Thank you for joining us for Nationwide at 5. Please stay tuned. Next is the comment section with Mahiri Stewart and Shalois Michael. And it's a Friday, and it's a very, very special Friday. We have the carnival festivities over the weekend. Those who are partaking, please do so responsibly. Have fun, but have fun in a meaningful and responsible way. Do not cause harm or trouble to others. That's where I'll leave you. I say thanks to our super producer, that's Dana Davey, our technical operator, Andrew the Glenn Boogs Anderson. Kimon was leading the newsroom this evening, and she did a fantastic job. I believe Kara will rejoin us next week. It has always and will remain a pleasure and a privilege to serve you, the viewers and listeners of Nationwide. Thank you for joining me for Nationwide at 5. I'm Siobhan Campbell.
For all your electrical needs, visit ABC Electrical Sales. They stock a wide variety of electrical supplies, including plugs, switches, panel boards, and conduits, plus energy-saving fixtures. ABC Electrical Sales stocks brands like GE, Siemens, Philips, Cutler Hammer, and Allen Bradley. They also offer free island-wide delivery just to suit your needs. Visit them at Shop 8, Hagley Park Plaza, Kingston 10, or call 876-754-3714-5 or 876-754-3825-8. ABC Electrical Sales, for a better choice in the electrical business.